In 1994, Puyo Puyo Tsuu put the Puyo Puyo series on the map. Its original arcade release was an even bigger hit than Street Fighter II, so it shouldn't come as much of a surprise that Puyo Puyo Tsuu would see tons of ports on different platforms, eventually earning it the title of the most widely known multi-platform game in Japan. The WonderSwan wanted a piece of the action, and on March 11, 1999, it got its own port developed by Sega and published by Bandai. Puyo Puyo is a long-running series of puzzle games based on the characters from Compile's dungeon-crawling RPG series, Mado Monogatari. The Mado Monogatari games featured colorful, gelatinous blobs called Puyo as a common enemy, much like how the Dragon Quest series featured iconic slimes. Masamitsu Nitani, the founder of Compile, took inspiration from Tetris and Dr. Mario and developed a spin-off puzzle game where you form groups of 4 or more Puyo of the same color to make them disappear. That wound up being 1991's Puyo Puyo, released simultaneously for the MSX2 home computer and the Famicom Disk System, as a pack-in game for Tokuma Shoten's Famimaga magazine. The original MSX and Famicom releases featured 2 single-player modes: Endless, where you would play until the board would fill up, or Mission, where you would be given preset boards to clear out. The arcade version, released a year later in 1992, would change the series significantly by making competitive play against AI opponents the default and predominant single-player mode. Unfortunately, Puyo Puyo's basic rules weren't fully thought out with competitive balance in mind. Due to the lack of countering mechanics, it was possible to guarantee wins if you put together a 5 or 6 chain faster than your opponent, flooding them with garbage blocks they wouldn't be able to clear out. So naturally, Puyo Puyo Tsuu would try to tweak the rules to make it a more viable and interesting competitive game. The changes were very well received, and it became successful way beyond expectations. The biggest change was the introduction of the offset rule. If a player has garbage Puyo waiting above their board, creating a chain will reduce the amount of waiting garbage Puyo instead of sending garbage Puyo over to the opponent. This allowed you to counter the opponent's chains and increased match length significantly over the previous game. Arcade operators, however, still wanted match length to remain under control to keep the quarters coming in, so Puyo Puyo Tsuu also introduced the concept of margin time. As the game grew longer, the garbage Puyo multiplier would increase, making it harder for players to recover from their opponent's chains. The Puyo Puyo Tsuu rule set was so good that it has been the standard rule set for Puyo Puyo ever since. The WonderSwan port came at an interesting time in the series' history. In March of 1998, Sega acquired the Puyo Puyo intellectual property from Compile. Compile would continue to be the main developer of Puyo Puyo titles and handle most of the publishing duties for those titles until their bankruptcy in 2002. Unfortunately, Compile was busy with development of multiple Puyo Puyo titles at the time that 2 handhelds, the WonderSwan and the Neo Geo Pocket Color, came knocking at the door asking for ports of Puyo Puyo Tsuu. This led Sega to pick up the porting duties, and the WonderSwan port would be the first Sega-developed Puyo Puyo title to be released on any system, just a year after they acquired the IP. So how did they get the port out so quickly? Well, both the WonderSwan and the Neo Geo Pocket Color ports were based on Pocket Puyo Puyo Tsuu, Compile's 1996 port for the Game Boy. The obvious thing about both ports is that, well, the systems they were developed for couldn't handle color in any way, so the series' fun, colorful flair is lost in translation. Puyo on the WonderSwan are either black, white, gray, or striped, and while I feel it's easy enough to tell them apart from each other, nothing will ever be as obvious as bright, vivid colors. While it may seem lacking compared to more modern Puyo Puyo games, Puyo Puyo Tsuu for WonderSwan has all of the game modes ports on home platforms had at the time. The standard Battle Tower mode and Endless modes are there for single-player sessions, and you can link up with another friend to play some 2-player Puyo Puyo as well. The options menu is quite exhaustive as well, with most rule set related options carrying over from the arcade version's service menu. Feature-wise, both the WonderSwan and Game Boy ports have parity with Super Puyo Puyo Tsuu Remix for the Super Famicom, and aside from their lack of color and simplified Puyo sprites for the lower resolution displays they were targeting, they are incredibly faithful ports of that release. If you can get over the simplified visual presentation of the game, the WonderSwan version of Puyo Puyo Tsuu is a well-executed pocket-sized version of a classic puzzle game, and one that would stand the test of time much better than the other March 1999 puzzle game release, Gunpei. Compared to the Game Boy, the WonderSwan had relatively few puzzle games during its lifetime, so this is definitely one to cherish.